right? And it's kind of a shame that sometimes regulations don't change until there has been an accident, usually involving a fatality. And that's part of the reason why we wanted to have you on today as well, to see if ADCI does have a statement regarding the recent fatality that occurred in Kentucky, where a 19-year-old Jaxxyn Lee Wood lost his life in an industry accident.
Yeah, and we do. Obviously, it's unfortunate. You know, condolences to both the diver's family and friends, as well as to the contractor. I mean, no one woke up that Wednesday wanting things to end the way that they did. And I don't care what anyone says about any contractor, you know, even the ones that say operate below the water line, none of them come into this with wanting to kill a diver. You know, most of the time, obviously there are two things that lead to fatalities: ignorance and greed, or a combination of the both. And in this case, you know, I would really like to think that it pretty much lent itself to ignorance. And a lot of times it isn't necessarily ignorance on the part of the contractor. It's the facility itself, because in some instances, those blueprints can be 50, 60 plus years old, and there's been no survey done subsequent to that, to the original survey. And in one of the instances, so we've had 5 fatalities in 25 months that are DP related inshore within the US.
That's a lot.
That is a lot, and that is a concern. And that's the reason why OSHA reached out to us to say, hey, what is it that we need to do to create a greater awareness with the end users? Because it's got to start with the money. I mean, we can target these contractors, whether they're consciously operating below the water line or not. But in the end, the contractors are going to have to adhere to whatever it is that the end users, the client says. We can get to the client, like we've really done a very good job of in the oil and gas industry, especially offshore. But if we can do the same thing with the hydroelectric and nuclear power plant facility operators, and just let them know what the equipment and what the operational what it needs to look like from a contractor standpoint. You know, before you hire anyone, this is the equipment that they need to have. This is what their safe practices and operations manual needs to look like. And this is what the certifications and qualifications and experience needs to look like for the folks that are performing the work.
Right. You know, and boy, I tell you, you know, me and a lot of the other divers wish we can grab some of these, you know, these people in power and these guys, you know, that are, you know, lax in writing these regulations, because it's like, we got guys that are dying out here. You know, things need to change, and we're just losing too many people. The thing that I'm going to be beating on the drum now, after hearing some details about the incident that happened, is that we need physical locks on these pumps. You know, I'm not sure what happened there at the plant, but you know, this is secondhand information that I'm hearing. It's a zip tie and tag system, and these are pumps that are huge. You know, and like I said, I can't confirm, you know, if that's true or not, but I tell you what, we need physical locks on these switches and, you know, tags and somebody there.
No, I completely agree. And even if you can't confirm it in this particular case, everything from this point forward, it's a question of awareness, whether it be through your media or through ours, you know, and ideally it would be through everyone. Everyone is giving the same message in terms of what it needs to look like before you begin this type of operation. And, you know, when we all lean back and said, well, that common sense is, yeah, guess what? Not everyone's dialed into common sense. And unfortunately, I'm kind of finding that out. I mean, there's no good rhyme or reason for why we should have delta P related fatalities when our video that we made with regard to delta, we made that thing in the 90s. And everyone has seen that and looked at it. What part of that video did you miss before you began your operation in a hydroelectric facility or nuclear power plant facility, or off a dam, or even off an offshore installation where we're doing an abandonment? You guys know when we're doing abandonments, we got to start cutting into that. And everybody says, oh, okay, yeah, coupon was cut there, and so it's been all vented. And we know damn well that there's a likelihood that maybe that wasn't done. So when we start to make our cut, we do it on the side to see what kind of, what do we got? And sometimes you start cutting into it, and that thing is just like, a tornado. It's the suctions in it. Says, no, there's no coupon cut up there. Somebody did not vent that top side. And so it's just a question of, we're looking at a hazard, and we're looking at something that has caused fatalities that we've known about for decades. I mean, literally decades. And so, we start thinking and making these assumptions that everyone knows it because of all of the lessons learned. And OSHA reached out to us and said, perhaps there's a demographic that isn't aware of it, and we need to go ahead and do it again. And they're absolutely right. And that's the operators.
I mean, that's those words can't ring any more true. A lot of these accidents are usually because somebody failed to do a job topside. It's not usually because there's something that happened in the water. It's a failure to act topside. And unfortunately, again, a lot of these accidents, it's not just one party that's at fault. I'm not speaking to this specific one, but just saying in general, it's multiple reasons why these accidents happen. Whether it's the dive supervisor that probably should have not put a diver in the water because things weren't secured topside, or it might have been just a combination of other things.
I mean, it usually comes down to umbilical management in a lot of instances, but it also comes down to just really taking the time to look at what are all of the potential hazards that are there, because we make a lot of assumptions. All right, this is closed. You said this is closed. We'll do that. You tell the diver where they need to go, but no one is thinking about, just how far and how many feet, if the diver goes from point A to point B, what's the payout from the umbilical standpoint what does that need to look like? Sometimes that there's no thought given there at all. So whatever that diver pulls out through his movements is what gets paid out. And it's just like, no, that can't be in the plan. You have to have that sorted out. And so, and looking at the five, these five that have happened, I've just scratched my head and said, on many levels, and I'm not necessarily going to say all five, but I'm going to say at least 3 out of the 5, umbilical management probably was something that was overlooked.
And that's important, the diver to manage his own umbilical. And it's also important for the tender as well, because you have to be able to have that feel for the umbilical to know whether the diver's taking slack or whether the slack is being taken by an external force, which is a water current flow or whatnot.
Or no. So, I mean, I can sit here and wax on with you about a lot of different things that concern me, but I know the focus right now are these 5 DP related incidents, and I've given you what I have, but I'll certainly answer anything else that any other questions that you have.
All right. Well, definitely, we definitely want to thank you for the statements you made regarding the recent accident and also those other 5 accidents that were related to a DP. So yeah, that's it's unfortunate, and hopefully we'll get some resolution, pretty soon, and be able to learn from this incident, so that way no other family has to grieve, just like the Wood family.
I completely agree. I completely agree. You guys are doing a great job getting the word out to the folks out in the field. I want that on record in the podcast. So, guys, go ahead and push this out to your mid and senior management within your companies. Have them come on and listen to the podcast, because this is all relevant information that they need to know. But it's not what the divers need to know. It's not necessarily what senior management needs to know. It's what everyone needs to know that is a stakeholder with respect to commercial diving operations. So I want to make sure you get that out there.
Thanks a lot, Phil. It means a lot.
Yeah.